Yeah, so coach, something I've been kind of noticing for a while. I think I've mentioned it on here before, but just last night, I think that the top picture on the left there is the one from last night. So it just reminded me something I've been noticing a lot with Guhle, and we know with his injury prone history that it's a bit of a concern. You kind of wonder why is it that a player like that just keeps getting injured, right? And yeah, so I've went back. I've tried to watch, and I've been really kind of focusing in on this for the last like maybe 10, 15 games. And what I'm really noticing is that more like it's going to be natural that a defenseman sometimes is going to put themselves in a compromising or vulnerable position, like when they're, retrieving a puck, when they're trying to eat a puck along the boards, or where they're, circling around the net, carrying the puck. Like it's going to happen, right? But what I've noticed compared, and guys, I invite everyone when you watch the next game with Montreal, watch how Gouli defends and watch how sometimes he I won't say that he's completely horizontal, but he's not straight a lot. Like I always find that he's very hunched over, whether when he's reaching for pucks, or when he's controlling the puck. Sometimes he puts himself in a really, and listen, it's going to happen to a lot of players. I'm not saying that other players don't do this as well, but I find that he puts himself very, very often in a vulnerable position. So something that I'm a little concerned about, if he's going to be somebody that's going to play a lot of top minutes, he really needs to. It's kind of like what we talked about with Slavkovsky last year about his awareness and being able to absorb hits and things like that. It's something that I hope that the coaching staff is working with him on. I'm sure some people will mention, well, it's probably happening because he's playing on the right. It's not his natural side, and you're probably right. Like it's probably something that happens a little bit more frequently because he's not on his left side. But this is something that predates that. I think like it's something that I've noticed in his game for a long time, even predating the time where he was playing on the right. So just something to be kind of concerned about, guys, like with how much time Montreal spends in its own zone. And I'm sure we'll talk about that at some point tonight, coach. Like last game against Columbus was just exploiting Montreal's man-on-man system so much that you're the defenseman. It's very, very taxing on the defenseman having to skate around when you're doing the man-to-man, and the defense is having to go all the way to the blue line to follow a player that's going up to the top of the of the zone and stuff like that. He just needs to be more economical, a little bit more careful. I believe in Gouli. Like, I've I've talked about this before. Like, I would be willing to trade Kaiden Guhle if it was for the right package to get that top six forward that we need. I'm not saying that I feel that way just because of this, but it's one element that concerns me about his game. The leaving himself a little bit vulnerable in these cases, and potentially kind of ending up injured more often than we would like. And I think overall his puck touches, his like when he's going back to regroup, and his he's not handling it as quickly as I'd like. So I'm curious if you guys are seeing the same thing. Like in particular, it's he's reaching a lot, putting himself in awkward positions, or along the boards, especially just not really protecting himself very well. Like, are you guys noticing that? Have you guys heard or coach? Like, is there something that they could be doing to coach him to be a little bit more cautious and to be a little more straight when he's kind of defending? Like, curious what you guys.
Yeah, I was just going to say I have noticed that with Gouli. I think it's something that needs to be addressed in terms of even the way he takes hits. I think that that's something that is very few times is talked about. There are ways that you can absorb hits in a fashion where injuries are not as prevalent, and I'm not seeing that with Gouli. So I think that that's something that either some of the coaches or even trainers, in terms of his upper body strengthening, has to address, because otherwise he could find himself, especially with that shoulder, he could find himself into a lot of difficult situations in the future.
For me, it's like when I read this the first time, I said, "Oh, I would be disagree with Marco about that." Until he talk about the body check, it's another aspect of the game at young age you need to learn as a defenseman. And to play the LD, play on the from the left to the other side, everything changed. right? You're on the back ends. You're not with forehands anymore. Your shoulder check is usually, we said, usually you go from the inside outside when you left wing, so left defenseman. So you go back down to retrieve the puck. You're going to look on that side first, right, over the left shoulder, and then you're going to look on the right after that. But now you become a RFD. Now you have to turn around again. You have to check again. So it's an adaptation for him about that. And I think for me, it's more about how he can become better behind the goal line. It's really where he need to improve more his game, his physicality of the game. It's something. It's just that put his skate at the right position. That's that with your body. So it's a little bit half second, 1 second, but it's so fast, Marco, in our tap because sometimes you just not get there. So it's an adaptation for him to get there. Also, it's a part of the management your time on the ice. How many seconds are you on the ice? When you get the 30 second, 40 second, the 50 second, 100%, now you may be at 80%, 70%. So he's managed his time, his play behind the goal line. One is a bit more fatigue, everything like that. And sometimes you don't have to the guy to try to get the hit. You just put your stick at the right position and just bring the guy on the wall, close the hit, and that's all. Put the guy out of the puck, and then you have the another one pick up the puck. It's all those adaptation for him at young age, and he played a ton of minutes for 22 years old, and he play guys against the opponent, the best players on the ice constantly every night. Whatever is Toronto Matthews, Carolina with Ao, Florida with Barkov, it's not matter. He always there. It's a part of his development. It's about his progression, his improvement. But it's a great point to talk about this. Is I think it's looking about the details of the game, right? It's easy to see the highlights of the game or to see how you see the great pass and then the goal, and that's it. But when you watch the details of the game, that's a good comments about to see how Guhle can improve. The only I'll be disagree with you, Marco, is I would not trade Guhle at all. I don't see any defenseman better to Kaiden Guhle right now with the Montreal Canadiens. And at long term, I don't see anybody yet. Now you can talk about Hudson, Rebecca, Mayu, those kind of players we do not see yet performing in the NHL. We don't know yet how they're going to become. But if you look about already, we see Guhle, Jekai, Harris, those kind of young players they have right now. And when they came last season, I think for me, it's really Guhle is the best. Who can play the 23-minute, 24-minute per night? I don't see any player right now for the Montreal Canadiens. It would be more like I would be worried, Marco, it could become like a first pairing, but it could become 1B first pairing, like the goaltender, 1A, 1B. Yeah. That would be my concern about that. Now, they trade Romanov, Marco, and then after because they knew they can get Guhle behind Romanov. I disagree when you trade him at this moment, but if you have someone really better and he can take those kind of minutes, good top 6 forward at minimum, at top 5, in my opinion, maybe top 4. But it could be that one could be sacrificed. But right now, I would not taking 1 minute to trade Kaiden Guhle.
Let me reiterate here, right? So again, I agree with everything you said. Like, obviously he's playing top minutes, playing on his wrong side and everything else, right? I invite you to again carefully watch. It's yes, there's parts of his game where obviously needs to be better, under the goal line and things like that. Like I alluded to, like his retrievals and everything else, right? What concerns me though is his positioning on the ice, how he positions his body. Often I find he puts himself in a very vulnerable position, right? So it's not like his hockey IQ and his positioning, everything else I think are elite. It just, like I said, when he's playing, if you compare him to other defensemen, even on Montreal, not just on other teams, watch him. Like his body is sometimes not that straight. He's always kind of like leaning over, right? And it's just that, and same thing when he's along the boards, his body position is a little unsettling. And I'm just concerned that if somebody in the coaching staff does not address that, he's going to put himself in positions where he's going to get injured a lot.
Yeah.
Because you're just putting and I get it, right? It's kind of like what Gallagher does. Sometimes when a player cares so much, he's going to reach, right? He's going to kind of like overextend his body to kind of like get that little extra thing. But with Guhle, I think he puts himself in very vulnerable positions. And it's not just the times that he's gotten injured, but I see him fall in very, very awkward positions all the time. And, it's one thing to fall and to take a hit and everything else, but when you put yourself and you're not positioning your body in the correct way, I'm concerned it's going to result.
Thank you to watching another Habs Nation video. But before we leave, we invite you, don't forget to click on the like, subscribe to the channel, and finally let us a comment about this video. And remember, you have greatness inside of you, and we wishes you an amazing, great, and blessing day.